In this video, we look at how to add walls from the Archimesh add-on. Let's get started. We first need an insertion point for the walls. Let's select the plan and tab into Edit mode. Select this inside corner vertex here. Press Shift+S and put the cursor to select it. We can tab back now. From the add-on, we can then click and add a room element. The room element begins as a single wall, but can be modified to be a complete room. This creates a second tab called Room above here, and where you'll find the properties relating to this object. This has a baseboard, so let's uncheck that from the add-on as it's not needed. In the thickness field, we can input 0.3 and match the 300mm thick wall from the drawing. We also know the length of the wall will be 16. However, we need to subtract the thickness of the walls. So input 15.4 in the length field. Let's increase the number of walls to 2. In the second wall length, we can input 9.4. Then increase the wall number to 3. This starts in the opposite direction, so we need to input minus 15.4 for the third wall length. We can either increase the wall number to 4 or click Close here to finish the wall. In the height field, input 2.7. There is a floor option here, but this creates a single plane for the entire building. We will want individual floors for each of the rooms. That's the external walls complete. In this video, we look at how to add doorways from Archimesh and how to create a door duplicate. Let's get started. We first need an insertion point for the front door. So let's press numpad 7 for a top view. We can press Z and switch to wireframe shading. We can select the door outlines and tab into Edit mode. Zoom into the front door. We can shift select the 4 corner vertices. Press Shift+S and put the cursor to selected. This will be the insertion point of the door. So let's first tab back to Object mode. Over on the Archimesh add-on, we can click Door. That adds the door and we can update the door properties now. You can click and drag in the frame width and start to match the plan. Or input 1.2 here as this is the width. In the frame thickness, this can be increased to a size that looks right on the wall. For now, we can input 0.15 and adjust it later if necessary. Let's press numpad 1 for a front view. In the frame height field, increase this to match the drawing. 2.28 is the value here. Let's rotate back around here and take a look. Also, press Z and switch to solid shading. Right now the door is inside the wall and not very functional. We need to subtract the door from the wall, and the add-on has the functionality to do just that. So first, select the wall. Then on the Archimesh tab, we can use the Auto Holes button. This will use the control hole wire object we previously saw and subtract that shape from the wall. What it's essentially doing is adding a Boolean modifier to the wall and using the difference setting to subtract that object. The first modifier here is the solidify modifier, adding the wall thickness. Minimize this. Below then is the Boolean modifier. Switch this on to make the subtraction visible. Let's press H and hide the wall for a moment. We can continue and finish the door, so select the door frame. In the model drop-down, choose one from here. I can choose model 5 and add glass to the panel. You can also change the handle type from the drop-down, but handle 1 is the one I'll use. Let's select the door panel. Make sure the plan is visible. Press R to open the door and check if it opens according to the plan. That's matching the plan and opening in the correct direction. Left click and leave this open. To close the door, press Alt+R to clear rotation. That's the front door complete. We can make a duplicate and add that as the back door. First, we need the insertion point. So select the door outline and tab into Edit Mode. Zoom into the back door area. We can Shift select the 4 corner vertices. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Now tab back. In the outliner, we can right-click on the door group and select Hierarchy. Press Shift plus D and right-click. Select the empty. Press Shift plus S and choose Selection to Cursor. Press RZ, input 180 and enter. The final external door we can add is the garage door. Select the door outlines again and we can tab into Edit Mode. Select 4 vertices on the garage door opening. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back to Object Mode. From the add-on, let's click and add a door. For the model type, this can be Model 03. This is a panel effect. For the handle, we can choose none. For the frame width, we can input 3 here. Let's press numpad 1 for front view. We can reduce the height to 2.28 and match the elevation height. They are the doorways. We can press Alt plus H and unhide the wall. Selected, then update the auto holes and subtract both hole objects. Select any Boolean objects and drag forward if the wall is not overlapping. In the outliner, press numpad minus and minimize the collections. Open up the plans collections. We can hide these collections for a moment. Drag select the Archimesh objects in the scene. Press M and we can add a new collection. Rename this Archimesh. In this video, we look at how to add walls using Archimesh. Let's get started. The first thing we'll need when adding the wall is an insertion point. Let's select the wall outline and tab into Edit Mode. The wall extrudes along the positive axis, so we can select this front corner vertex here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back now and from the Create tab, add a room element. This wall will be straight across to the opening here. Right now it's rotated, so press RZ, input -90 and enter. In the thickness field, we can input 0.15. Let's also uncheck baseboard. In the height field, we can input 2.5 and leave room for the ceilings. In the wall length, click and drag to increase. The length will be 3.45. There are 3 more walls at the same orientation, so press Shift plus D, Y, press and hold Ctrl and snap across to the endpoint. Then G, Y and snap back to the endpoint. That way, when we increase the length field, it scales from the origin point. 4.95 works here. Then Shift select the 2 walls and press Shift plus D, X and snap up above here. Now we need 2 walls in between. Select one of these. Press Shift plus D to duplicate or Z, input 90 and enter. Then press G and snap up to the endpoint here. In the length field, increase this to fit between the walls. 4.75 works here. Then press Shift plus D, Y and snap this across to the far side. Next, there is the wall, the full width of the building. Select this wall here. Press Shift plus D, X and snap up along here. Then increase the length to fit across. This will be 9.4 in length. The final wall is into the garage here. Select one of the walls running the same direction. Press Shift plus D, X and drag down past. Then G and snap to the endpoint. That way we can increase this in length and fit across the room. 3.45 works here. In this video, we look at duplicating the internal doors. Let's get started. To begin, let's select one of the short walls here. Press H and hide this for a moment. Let's select the door outline and tab into Edit Mode. Select the 4 outside vertices of this door outline here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Let's come into a top view so we can see this a little bit easier. Tab back first. Press Z and switch to wireframe shading. Now on the Create tab, we can add a new door. This door is the correct width. However, we can increase the depth so the frame extends beyond the wall. So in the frame width field, we can input 0.19. Press Z and switch back to solid shading. One thing we notice on this door is the fact it's slightly off center. That's because the empty is not center of the base. Now we could reposition and make the parent relationship again. However, if you make any modifications to the door properties, it will revert to its original settings, undoing those changes. Instead, we can just move it up slightly. Select the empty. Press G, Y, input -30 and enter. -30 is the distance each door can be moved to center the frame. Press Alt plus H and unhide the wall. Select the wall and make the subtraction with the Auto Holes button. Select the door panel. Press R and check the direction. This is the correct direction, so we can right-click. We can duplicate this internal door and position at the remaining openings. So first, select the outline. Press the / key to isolate this. Then tab into Edit Mode. We can select 4 vertices around this door on the bottom of the same room. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Now tab back and also return to Global View. Select the empty. In the outliner, press the period key if the door is not visible. Select the door group. Right-click and from here, choose Hierarchy. Now press Shift plus D and right-click. Select one of the empties. Press Shift plus S and choose Selection to Cursor. Select the door frame to make the properties available. Here we can input 90 and rotate the door to align with the wall. Select the empty. Press G, X, input 30 and center this up on the wall. Select the wall and update the subtraction. That way we can see what direction the door is opening. Select the door frame. Now change the direction to open left. We need to update the subtraction again. That will be the process for the remaining doors. Make duplicates and position at the 4 remaining doors on the ground floor. The garage door is slightly wider, so that will need to be increased in width. I can do that between videos, so try get that done before the next video. In this video, we look at how to add windows from ArchiMesh and how to display statistics on screen. Let's get started. Hopefully, you've gotten the remaining doors added to the scene. We can move on, and the first thing is to use the 3D cursor and get an insertion point for the first window. Wireframe shading will be best, so press Z and switch to that first. We can select the window outline here. Then tab into Edit Mode. We can press A to select everything. Press M and merge by distance. That will remove overlapping vertices. Then drag select these vertices here. Now sometimes if you import a file like this or even model yourself, there could be doubled up vertices in one area. This can cause the 3D cursor to be placed off center. I can show an example. If I drag select these 3, press Shift plus D and just right click. Now there are 6 vertices this side and 3 vertices this side. If I drag select these now, press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. The cursor is skewed towards the greater number as it's calculating the median point of the selection. Very noticeable here, but sometimes not so much. One overlay that can be helpful in this case is the statistics setting here. Check this on and the number of vertices selected will be displayed. Here we can see 9 vertices are selected when you might expect just 6. You could merge them, so press M and merge by distance. Then increase the distance to 1 and make sure that removes the tree. Just be aware how doubled up vertices will change the position of the 3D cursor and the issues it may cause. We can press Shift plus S again and put the cursor to selected. Now tab back to Object Mode. On the Create tab, let's click and add a panel window. We can use the elevation to position the window. Press Numpad 1 for a front view. Select the window outline and tab into Edit Mode. Select the bottom 2 vertices here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. In the View tab, we can click into the Z location. Press Ctrl plus C and copy this value. We can tab back now. Select the empty. In the Item tab, paste in that value into the Z location and move this up to the correct height. Select the window and open back up the Create tab. Down below are the window properties. Reduce the horizontal count to 1. Then for the width and height, adjust the values below. 290 by 166 work for this window here. Zoom in and make sure these values are exact. Zoom back out now. We can press Z and switch to solid shading. Let's select the wall and create the subtraction. Let's select the window again. We can adjust the sill properties. So in the tree fields, input 20. Then 1 for the last remaining. You can adjust these further, but I'd be happy with the sizes here. When you are done with the sill, select the wall and update the Boolean subtraction. On the opposite side of the house, there will be exactly the same window, so try get that added before the next video. Just make sure and rotate it after you get that added. There are 3 smaller windows to be added, 2 on the end and 1 on the back. Let's add one of the end windows and you can finish off the remaining 2 before the next video. We can press Numpad 7 for top view. Switch to wireframe shading. We can select the window outline and tab into Edit Mode. Drag select the end vertices here. Make sure there are only 6 selected from the display here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back. Let's select one part of the window. In the outliner, press the period key. Right-click on the window group and select Hierarchy. Press Shift plus D, then right-click. Select one of the empties. Press Shift plus S and choose Selection to Cursor. Then we can select the window frame. You'll know it's selected when the properties become available. Then in the rotation field, input 90. In the width field, we can reduce this to fit the window. 190 works here. Then in the Item tab, we can paste in the height value into the Z location. We can zoom out and rotate back around. Press Z and switch back to solid. Select the wall now and we can update the subtraction. There are 3 more windows marked on the outline left to add, 2 small and 1 large. Try get that done before the next video. In this video, we look at how to add windows from Archimesh. Let's get started. Hopefully you've gotten the remaining windows added into the wall and have it subtracted. Let's move to the opposite end and add in the large group of windows. We can switch to wireframe shading first and select the window outline. Now tab into Edit Mode. Select the end vertex here. Press Shift plus D, X and snap out to the full length of the window. Now Shift select the vertice on the far end. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Now tab back and come over to the Create tab. We can start with the panel window. Below here in the window type drop down, we can choose the door 80 by 230. We can then reduce the vertical count to 1, then the horizontal count to 3. Down below, uncheck the extra frame on the 2 outside panels. We can press numpad 1 and come into a front view. We can use the front elevation to resize the window. Click and drag and increase the height value. 218 works here. The width of each panel is controlled in the 3 fields here. We can input 117, 116, 117. These work to fill the opening. Let's add the large 5-part window to the end. Select the plan and tab into Edit mode. Switch to Edge Select and select the center edge. Press Shift+S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back now. Then from the add-on, add a panel window. Now update the type to be a door 80 by 230. Increase the horizontal count to 5. Reduce the vertical count to 1. We can rotate this 90. Check on the last frame setting. That way 3 have the extra and 2 do not. I can drag out the panel here just to reveal the widths. Here we can input 187, and this value works for the width of the building. In the height, we can input 218 and match the height of the front window. We can make a copy of the front window and move to the opposite side. Select one of the components. In the outliner, press the period key. Right-click on the group and select Hierarchy. Press Shift+D and right-click. Then select one of the empties. We know the width of the building is 10,000 and the windows are sitting in 150 from the edge. So press GY, input 9,700 and enter. Then RZ, input 180 and enter. Let's press Z and switch back to solid shading. Select the wall and we can create the subtraction. This large window is slightly in past the ends, so select the empty. Press GX and drag out and align with the end windows. Zoom right in and move that into position. That looks very good. In this video, we look at how to extrude walls from the imported drawing. Let's get started. In the outliner, let's tidy up the objects from ArchiMesh. In the scene, press numpad 3 for a side view. Drag select all the objects and try not to select any of the drawing objects. Press M and we can move these into the ArchiMesh collection. In future, I can try select the ArchiMesh collection before adding objects from the add-on. We can switch off the ArchiMesh collection now. We can switch on the first floor plan and I've named this collection incorrectly. I can rename this FF Top. We can then switch off any other collection in here. I wanted to show some parametric modeling with ArchiMesh first so you can see the comparison with DXF file extrusion. It is a different workflow when you have a complete set of plans. I do find myself using a combination of manually extruding and parametric objects when I do use plans. There are many ways to form the walls and we can look at this example. Let's make a duplicate of these plans before extruding the walls as we'll use them later in the course. Select the scene collection so the new collection gets added here. Drag select all these objects. Press Shift+D and right click. Then press M and create a new collection. Rename this FF Walls and add these inside. We can then switch off the FF Top collection. The next step is to select the edges we'll be extruding. We will want to extrude a wall under each window. That way when we extrude it forms a wall for the window to sit. Select the door objects first. Press X and delete these. Now select the external wall object. Shift select the window object and internal walls. Press Ctrl+J and join these into one. Let's press Z and switch to wireframe. Now tab into Edit Mode. We can press numpad 7 for a top view. Select it all. Press M and merge by distance first. Increase the value to 1 mm and make sure all are merged. That will remove any overlapping vertices. Switch to Edge Select and select the center edges on the windows. Press X and delete edges. We can repeat that for the edges across the door. Select all these edges. Press X and delete edges. That leaves some missing edges. Select the vertices and press F and create an edge again. Next, we can create faces to extrude up and form walls. We can start with the external walls. Let's drag select the 4 side vertices here. Press F and create a face. Select the front 2. Then press F again and continue to fill forward back to the start. You may have to manually select and fill in if fill forward fails. Usually overlapping vertices are the culprit. Hover on the external walls now and press L to select linked. Press H to hide. Next are the internal walls. Here we have extra edges, so select these. Press X and delete. Next, we want to create these internal walls similar to the ground floor. That means first selecting these short edges here. Press X and delete edges. Leaving these here would cause overlapping vertices. Next, select the corner vertex. Press V and rip this apart. Press Ctrl and snap up. That way, this will be a full rectangle shape. Repeat that on the other 3 corners and form the full rectangle. Rip, then snap into position. Press A again. Press M and merge by distance. Now we can start selecting 4 vertices. Keep an eye on the number of vertices if drag selecting, as there may be extra unconnected vertices that get selected. Delete them if you come across any. Press F and create a face. I can quickly work around. No need to fill across the doors. We can fill in across the top when extruding. I can quickly work around and fill these in. With that complete, switch to Face Select and make sure you see a face in each. Press Alt plus H and unhide the external walls. The face has a dot center to indicate what the face is filling. Now we are ready to extrude the walls. Let's come into a front view so we can see the heights from the elevation. Switch on the elevation in the outliner. Press A and select it all. Press E and snap this first extrusion to the bottom of the window here. Now we need a door height, so let's add a door in. First, we can select the 4 bottom vertices of this door opening here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back. Let's press C and switch to solid so we can see this a little bit better. Then from the Create tab we can add a door. This door is the correct width and height, so we don't need to make any modifications. Let's select the wall again and tab in here. The top faces are deselected, so let's select just one. Then from the select menu, we can come to select similar and choose normal. Zoom out to take a look. If you have an issue, it probably means some normals are reversed. Press Q and switch on the face orientation overlay. Select it all. Press Shift plus N and recalculate. Select the face again, and now we can select similar and normals. Press E and snap up to the top of the door. Press numpad 1. This time extrude to underneath the roof. Finally, we need to fill in above the doors. So select the faces each side. Then right click, and from the Loop Tools menu we can choose the Bridge command. I can quickly work around and create a face over the remaining doors. Use Shift plus R to repeat the last operation. We can press Q and switch off face orientation. That is one way of using the drawing file to form walls in Blender. In this video, we look at how to rebuild walls with faces. Let's get started. To begin, we can press Ctrl plus R and add an edge loop to the front wall here. Left click and right click to leave it here. Press S, X, input 0 to straighten. Then G, X and snap to the front wall. We can repeat that on the back wall and add an edge loop. Align on the axis and snap into position. Next, we can press numpad 1 and come into a front view. Press Z and switch to wireframe. And also vertex selection. That way we can drag select the top corner vertices. Press X and delete vertices. That removes all the faces back to the level we need. Switch back to solid and take a look at what we need to fill. Press Alt plus A to deselect. Press L and select the internal walls, both sides. Press H and hide these so we don't select the wrong vertices. We can start with the top here, so select the 4 vertices. Press F and create a face. Select the front 2 vertices and press F and fill forward around to the far side. That's the balcony area created, so press Alt plus H and unhide the walls. Now let's tab back. We can press F2 and rename this FF Walls. In this video, we look at adding doors to the first floor. Let's get started. To begin, we can come to the outliner and switch back on the visibility of the Archimesh collection. Select the collection, and that way when we add Archimesh objects, they will get added into this collection. This will be exactly the same process as adding the ground floor doors. So you can work away and add these in yourself. I can quickly cover 2 and complete the remaining before the next video. Let's start with the external balcony door, so tab into edit mode. Select the bottom 4 vertices on the wall here. Now put the cursor to selected. We can tab back. We have previously modified the default door for the ground floor, so select one of the components. In the outliner, press the period key to highlight this. Right-click and select Hierarchy. Press Shift plus D and drag across. Select the empty now. Press Shift plus S and put Selection to Cursor. Select the door frame. In the rotation field, input 270 here. That way, the door opening direction will match the plan. This needs to be reduced in width and height. In the height field, we can input 2.1. Then in the width field, input 1. This temporary door we added, select the empty. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Then press the period key to highlight this in the outliner. Right-click on its parent and delete Hierarchy. From the ground floor, we can select a door empty. Now select Hierarchy. Press Shift plus D and drag away. Select the empty. Press Shift plus S and put selection to cursor. Try work around and add in the remaining doors for the first floor. I will also get these added between videos. In this video, we look at adding windows to the first floor. Let's get started. Hopefully you have the remaining doors added and they open in the correct direction. I added an extra opening here that's not on the plan, so I need to fill this in. Tab into Edit Mode. Select the faces up along here each side. Then from the Loop Tools tab, use the Bridge command. Select it all now. Press M and we can merge by distance and remove any extra vertices. We can move on to the windows next. There are a couple of ways to remove the faces for the windows, then fill around. We saw that with the balcony when we filled back in around the wall. We need to add 4 edge loops first. These will be the window boundaries. Press Ctrl plus R and add an edge loop here. Press S, X, input 0 and enter. Now snap this along the X and to this internal wall here. Add a second this side and snap to the other side. We then need another edge loop this side. Snap this down here. Finally, one up the far side up here. This one needs to be scaled on the X to 0. Then snap this into position. This time, let's select the faces that will be the window openings. The front windows include the top 2 faces. The back, we just need to select the lower 2. Press E and snap across to the width. Now press X and delete these. We also need to select the opposite side faces. These include the top 2 on the front. Press X and delete these. Then the top faces here can be deleted. Extruding those across have filled in between, but we do have overlapping vertices and we'll remove those in a moment. We can do the same with the end openings. Select these 2 faces. Press E and snap across. Press X and delete these. Select the opposite ones and delete these also. Now we can deal with the overlapping vertices, so select it all. Press M for the merge menu and we can merge by distance. The windows can be added in the same way as the ground floor. I can demonstrate the large front window and then we can complete the remaining before the next video. First we need an insertion point, so select the bottom face on this opening. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Let's tab back. Select the empty below here. In the outliner we can right click and select hierarchy. Press Shift plus D and drag away. We can select the empty. Press Shift plus S and snap this to the cursor. Press G, Z, input 20 and enter. That will move the window up and make sure there is no Z fighting. Select the frame next and fit the window to the opening. In the height field we can input 178 here and increase this to fit. In the width dimension we can click and increase this, but it will only increase to 300 in this version and that's not enough. We will have to manually increase this width in edit mode. This means no other modifications can be made to the window in the properties here or it will revert back. So let's tab into edit mode. Press 1 and switch to vertex selection. Press Z and switch to wireframe shading. Drag select one side of vertices. Press G, X and snap out to the end of the wall. Now drag select the second side. Press G, X and snap these out. We can press Z and switch back to solid shading. We only need to manually adjust the front 2 windows. Just be careful not to modify either once completed. The remaining windows will fit to our opening. They are slightly shorter in height. Try work around and complete the remaining windows. In this video, we look at adding stairs to the building. Let's get started. To begin, we can come to the outliner and press the numpad minus key and close up the collections. Expand the plans collection and switch back on the ground floor plan so the stairs outline will be visible. Let's zoom into the start of the stairs. Select it and tab into edit mode. Select the two end vertices. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back to object mode. From the Create tab, we can add a stairs. We can press numpad 7 for top view. The width of the stairs is 1000 on the plan, and 1 here represents 1000. In the number of steps field, we can input 13 and match the plan. In the step height field, we can input 0.1777. In the depth field, we can input 0.351. This is a very straightforward stairs, but saves a great deal of time. In this video, we look at adding a ceiling and subtracting the stairs opening. Let's get started. In the outliner, we can press the numpad minus key and close down the collections. We can disable the plans and the first floor walls collection for the moment. We can create a ceiling for the ground floor walls. This will be from the top of the wall here to 20 mm below the first floor floors. The floors will be separate objects, so each will have a different material. So having the ceiling 20 mm from the floors will ensure no Z-fighting. That's where the faces of 2 or more objects are in the same location. This ceiling can be one plane, so first we can get an insertion point. Select the external wall and tab into edit mode. Select the corner vertex here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Let's tab back now. From the add menu in mesh, we can add a plane. Let's tab into edit mode. Press M and merge at center. That collapses all the vertices to one at the origin. Make sure vertex selection is active, otherwise you can't extrude. Press E and snap across to the far side. I can zoom out here. Press A and select it all. Press EX and snap down to the far side. Let's select it all. Press G, Z and snap to the top of the wall. Then EZ and snap up. We can then move this down 20 mm to allow room for the floors. Press G, Z, input -20 and enter. Ceilings are usually one color material, so this is a very fast way of adding a generic ceiling. We do need to cut a hole in the ceiling for the stairs. We can tab back to object mode. Let's switch back on the first floor walls collection to help visualize what we need here. The opening will go from the front of the stairs to this wall here, and from the side of the stairs to this wall here. So let's select the stairs and tab into edit mode. Let's select this top inside corner vertex on the step. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. Now tab back, and from the add menu in mesh we can add a plane. Let's tab in here. Select it all. Press M and merge at center. Press E, Y and snap down to the bottom wall here. Press A and select the 2 vertices. Press E, X and snap across to the stairs. Now we have the plane the size of the opening we require. Select it all. Press G, Z and drag this up slightly. The distance is not important, just make sure it is above the ceiling. Now press E, input 1200 and enter. This needs to have extruded further than the ceiling thickness of 200. Let's tab back and select the ceiling object. In the modifiers tab, we can add a Boolean modifier. We can use this picker tool here and select the plane cutting the ceiling. Now because we extruded down, let's press Q and switch on face orientation. There is always a chance the faces are reversed. If yours are, select the plane and tab into edit mode. Select it all and press Shift plus N and recalculate outside. We can tab back and switch off this overlay. We can see the result if we select the plane and open the Object Properties tab. In Viewport Display, we can change this from textured to wire. Now the stairs should be visible. We will leave the Boolean modifier on the ceiling as there shouldn't be a need to apply it until it's necessary. That way, if we need to make changes, we can very easily. Select the ceiling now. Press F2 and rename this GF ceiling. In this video, we look at adding a floor to the building. Let's get started. When we add these floors, we need them to sit flush on the ceiling and be 20 mm in height. Let's select the first floor wall and tab into Edit Mode. Select an inside bottom vertex in this back room here. Press Shift+S and put the cursor to selected. This will then need to be lowered 20 mm, so open the View tab. In the Z field, we can click and remove the mm. Then add in a -20 at the back of this value and subtract that distance. Back in the room, we can shift select the 4 corner vertices. Press Shift+D and right click. Press F and create a face. Press P and we can separate selection. We can tab back and select the floor. In the Modifiers tab, we can add a Solidify modifier and give this floor thickness. Increase the thickness to 20 mm. Make sure it's adding the thickness downwards. That will be the process when adding the floors for the remaining rooms, first and ground floors. We'll look at adding texture maps when creating the floor material. Try get the remaining floors completed before the next video. Next, we can create the hallway and subtract the stairs. Select the interior wall and tab into Edit Mode. We can press the / key and isolate this object. Select all the corner vertices around the hallway. Press Shift+D and right click. Press P and separate this object. We can tab back to Object Mode and select the wall again. Then press Alt+Numpad / to remove it. We can then select our new object and tab into Edit Mode. Let's select 2 vertices and press F and fill with an edge. Repeat that and join this all around. We need an extra vertex here, so select these 2 vertices. Right click and subdivide. Select it and press G, Y and snap to a line here. Repeat that for this edge and subdivide. Then snap to a line. That will allow us form quads. Now select 4 vertices and create a face. Work around and create the 3 faces here. Press Q and switch on face orientation. If the faces are reversed, select it all and press Shift+N. Switch off the overlays now. We can tab back to Object Mode and return to Global View. Let's Shift select this first floor. Press Ctrl+L and link the modifier. That will add the Solidify modifier that has a thickness of 20 mm. Minimize this modifier. Add a Boolean to this. Then use the picker and subtract the cutter object we set up earlier. This does leave a 20 mm gap around the stairs here that you can kind of make out. So let's correct that. Select the wall and tab into Edit Mode. Switch to Wireframe so we can select the bottom face of the end wall surrounding the stairs. Press E, input 20 and enter. We can tab back and switch back to Solid. That fills in the gap and that looks good. Before the next video, try add in floors for the remaining rooms top and bottom. The balcony area will also need a floor, so try get that done before the next video. In this video, we look at organizing the collections, adding the ground floor hallway and floor slab. Let's get started. Hopefully you have added the remaining floors to the first and ground floor levels. It's just a matter of duplicating the floor we created the last time and fit that inside each room. The ground floor hallway does involve a little more extrusion, but we can complete that shortly. Let's organize the collection so we can quickly switch on and off the visibility of groups of objects. We can press Alt+H and bring back any hidden objects. Let's start with the ground floor wall. Press M and we can create a new collection. Rename this GF wall and add this in here. Let's select all the first floor floors. Press M and rename this FF floors and add these in here. Then disable these in the viewport also. Select the ceiling next. Press M and create a new collection. Rename this GF ceiling and add this in here. This collection can also be switched off in the outliner. Switch off the first floor wall collection also. Next, we can select all the ground floor internal walls. Then press M and add these into the GF wall collection. Switch off this collection also. Next, we can select all the ground floor floors. Press M and we can create a new collection. Rename this GF floors and add these in here. We can disable this collection also. Next, we have the windows. The best thing is to first come into a front view. Press Z and switch to wireframe shading. We can drag select all the first floor windows. Be careful to only select the windows and no doors. Rotate around and make sure just the windows are selected. Press M and create a new collection. Rename this FF windows and add these inside. Switch this collection off. Next, we can drag select all the first floor doors. Make sure to include the handles. Also, drag select the small empties at the bottom. Press M and create a new collection. Rename this FF doors. This collection can also be switched off in the outliner. We can continue and select the ground floor windows first, so press numpad 7 for top view. Drag select all the windows. Make sure they are all selected. Press M and create another collection. Rename this GF windows and add these inside. Disable this collection also. That leaves us with just doors and also these cutter objects, but we'll deal with these in a moment. Drag select what is left. We can shift select and deselect the stairs and the stairs cutter. Press M and create a new collection. Rename this GF doors and add these inside. We can disable this collection now. We can select the stairs and add this inside the Archimesh collection. Now let's finish off the ground floor hallway. Let's switch back on the ground floor wall collection and the first floor floors collection. We can select the first floor hallway. Press Shift+D and snap this down to the ground. In the Modifiers tab, we can remove the Boolean modifier as it's not needed. Press M and move this into the GF floors collection. Switch that collection back on in the outliner. Switch off the first floor floors collection. We can tab into edit mode now. Let's isolate this floor for a moment. Drag select the two end vertices across the hall here. Now return to global. Press E, Y and snap these out to the inside point of the wall and fill the hallway. Let's tab back. The final step is to add the base, so select the wall and tab into edit mode. Select the four corner vertices underneath. Press Shift+D and right click. Press F to create a face. Press P and separate selection. Let's tab back and select this. In the Modifiers tab, we can remove all the Boolean modifiers, but make sure to leave the Solidify modifier as that's adding the thickness. We do need to change the thickness to 200 mm. In the Item tab, we can increase this base to 16,000 in the X and 10,000 in the Y. Then, in the scene, if we rotate around, we need to press G and drag away. Press G again and snap to the bottom corner of the building. In this video, we look at adding a roof. Let's get started. Let's come to the outliner and switch on all the collections. Select the base slab. Press Shift plus D, Z and drag this up. Now G, Z and snap down. We can press numpad 1 for a front view. On the left side, we need to extend this slab. So let's tab into Edit mode. Press Z and switch to wireframe shading. Drag select the end vertices here. Press GX and snap out to align with the drawing. We can select this corner vertex here. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back and also press Z and switch back to solid shading. Let's open the View tab. We need to move the 3D cursor up the thickness of the slab. So at the back of the Z location value, we can add plus 215. That will update that value. In the Create tab, we can come and find the roof. These are only initial properties and will disappear if you use another command. If you click away, you can press F9 to bring them back. For the model number, I can choose 4. In the number of tiles for the X-axis, we can input 76, tab into the Y and input 27. That's the basic roof in for the building. In this video, we add railings to the balcony area. Let's get started. Let's select the top wall section and tab into Edit mode. Press the / key to isolate. We need to form the pillars on each corner here before extruding. Press Ctrl plus R and add an edge loop. Left click and right click. In the options box, check on even and straighten the cut. Then press GX and snap this down. Add a second on the width. And snap this down. We can repeat that for the far side and add an edge loop here to form the corners. Select it all now. Press M and we can merge by distance. Select the top 2 faces. Press F and create one face. Repeat that on the far side. Also, underneath and match the tops. We can return to Global. Now we are ready to extrude. Switch to Face Select and we can select the 2 corner faces each side of the balcony here. These can be extruded up to form the pillars. So press numpad 1 for front view. Press E and snap these up to beneath the roof. Let's rotate back around and select the 2 vertices at the base of the pillar. Press Shift plus S and put the cursor to selected. This will be the insertion point for the railing. Let's tab back. On the Create tab, we can use the column generator. The model can be changed to rectangular. For the X size, input 0.120 or a size you like. Match this in the Y also. In the count X, we can input 11. In the distance X, input 0.43 or a value that looks correct. That's it for the properties, but we'll be making some modifications. In the Modifiers tab, let's press Ctrl plus A and apply the Array modifier on the columns. Select the top cap and remove the Array modifier here. Repeat that for the bottom cap and remove this array. Let's shift select the 3 objects. Make sure and select the bottom cap last, as we want the new object to inherit its origin point. Press Ctrl+J and join these into one. Let's tab into Edit Mode. Drag select the top and bottom vertices on this. Press GX and snap to the far wall. Then drag select the far side through the pillar. Press GX and snap back. We can tab back now. Let's get the snap point for the opposite side. Tab in here and select the two vertices. Press Shift+S and put the cursor to selected. We can tab back now. Press Shift+D and right click. Press Shift+S and put selection to cursor. For the remaining railings, try get that done before the next video. Use the column generator and use the same process. 22 columns work across this opening. In this video, we look at 3D modeling the front step. We use the align command to center the new step up on the doorway. Let's get started. Hopefully you've created the final balcony railing and we can move on to the front step. Let's switch off the plans collection first. For the step, we can start with a cube. Press Shift and right click to place the 3D cursor out front. Then from the Add menu in Mesh, add a cube. We can update the dimensions to the sizes for this step. The X dimension is fine, so input 1000 in the Y axis. Tab into the Z and input 200. In the Z location, we can input 0 first. Then in the scene, press GZ and snap down to align the bottom face with the base of the house. We need to center this step up on the door and we can use the align command to complete this. Shift select the door frame. This has its origin center. From the object menu in transform, we can choose align objects. Then in the properties box, check on the X axis. This is using the object centers and the active object as the target. Select just the step again. Then we can press G, Y and snap this back to the face of the base. Next, we need to form the top part of this step. Let's tab into Edit Mode. Select the top face. Press GZ, input -30 and enter. Press P and separate selection. Tab back and select this. In the X dimension, we can input 2060. Tab into the Y and input 1030. In the Modifiers tab, we can add a Solidify modifier and give this thickness. Increase that thickness value to 30. That doesn't look like 30, and the reason is we have a non-uniform transform in the scale field here. Press Ctrl+A and apply the scale transform. We need to move this up and forward. Press GZ and snap up. Press GZ, input -15 and enter. Press Ctrl+A to apply this modifier. Then Shift select the bottom. Press Ctrl+J to make these one object again. Because we selected the bottom step last, the new object has taken on its transforms, including a non-uniform scale. Press Ctrl+A and apply that scale. The step can be moved into the GF Floors collection. In this video, we continue work on the external environment and extrude the external walls. Let's get started. We can begin and press Shift+S and put the cursor back to World Origin. Then in the View tab, in the Z location, we can input -200 and move this down in line with the base. Then from the Add menu in Mesh, we can start with a plane. Open the Item tab so we can update the dimensions. This plane will represent the overall external yard or environment. So in the X, input 26800. Tab into the Y and input 23800. Let's rotate around here. Press G and snap this to the back corner. Then we can move it away a certain distance. So press GX, input 2000 and enter. Then press GY, input 2000 and enter. Let's tab into edit mode now. We can press Ctrl+R and add an edge loop, then snap this to the edge of the step. This short edge out front won't have a wall extruded, so we can select all the edges except that one all the way around. Press P and separate selection. Tab back and select this. Press Ctrl+A and apply the scale value as we will be adding a solidify modifier. Now tab in to extrude the wall. Select it all. Press EZ, input 1000 and enter. In the modifiers tab, we can add the solidify modifier. In the thickness field, increase this to 400. For the next extrusion, we need to be able to select only part of the wall, so the modifier needs to be enabled. So let's tab back to apply this. Press Ctrl+A to apply the modifier. Now tab into edit mode again. This back left corner has an angled section and we need quads here. Press Ctrl+R and snap this edge to the first vertex. Press S, input 0 to straighten. Now snap back. Repeat that along the Y-axis and snap here. Press S, Y, input 0 to straighten. Now snap back. Now select the two top triangles. Press F to form one face. Repeat this underneath and select these two faces. Press F and form a face. Next, we can select the faces we need to extrude, so the back and right side wall, including the two small squares we formed. Press E, input 2000 and enter. In this video, we continue work and finish modeling the external environment. Let's get started. We can tab back and select the bottom plane, and then tab into edit mode. We can add more edge loops and mark out the grass, paving and border areas. So let's press Ctrl+R and add an edge loop on the opposite side of the step and snap this in here. We then want another edge 400mm offset from these. So first, add a second edge loop and snap this in. Press G, X, input 400 and enter to move this away. Repeat that on the opposite side and add an edge loop. Now move this away -400 along the X. We also need a 400mm strip offset from the high walls. So add an edge loop here and snap to the right side. Press G, X, input -400 and enter. We can rotate around to the back. Add an edge loop here and snap to the back wall. Press G, Y, input -400 and enter. The final border is around the base of the house, so we can add 4 edge loops and snap these into the house, then move them away 400. I can quickly work around and add this border in around the house. Finally, I can add the last one here. Then move this 400mm away. These will all make more sense when we add material and the particle systems.